This is a reading of a student's transcript of a workshop given by Ernest Holmes titled "The Power is in Your Word." Now this transcript is available in the book Love and Law, The Unpublished Teachings. It is a collection of rare and unpublished lectures and workshops given by Ernest Holmes to his students. In this chapter, Ernest Holmes gives very detailed information to his students about the power of the word, and he explains the concepts and philosophies that he uses to treat his patients and to manifest. The power is in your word. I have long wanted to experiment, to take a group of people and see if we could not get some results in demonstrating as we get with one person. I'm daily getting letters and telephone messages from people who have been healed through our class work. I do not see any reason why we could not make one treatment just as effective for 150 people as for one, provided those 150 people receive it. I'm convinced that this thing will work with the same assurance as in an individual case, through the consciousness and in affairs of as many people as believe in it. There is something that corresponds to our every belief, no matter what that belief is. The reason why so few people get from the metaphysical principle what there is in it, because, and it's a tragedy too, and it's a shame, so few people compared with the number of people there are in the world will take the time to learn to investigate and to understand. Ordinary people are so bound up with their trouble and fears and ignorance, they will not give the time it takes to change their thought. It is only normal and natural from the human standpoint that it should be so. Until your thought is changed, your conditions never will be. Your body never will be. We are sick because in our consciousness there is an image of disease. We will be sick just as long as that image exists. We are poor because of the same reason. There is not any question about it whatever, not the slightest. We externalize every concept and every consciousness and every state of mind. Now, it depends upon the individual who are being helped just as much as it does the ones who are helping. For instance, in the infinity of mind, which is the principle of all metaphysics and all of life, there is nothing but mind and all that mind does. This mind is latent. It just waits to be acted upon. And your thought and mine acts upon universal mind. Your thought and my thought is a law unto ourselves. Your thought and my thought is a law unto ourselves. It is just as much a law unto your life as mine, as God's law is in the universe. There is no difference. It is absolute. And moreover, all there is in your life and mine is our thought and our word or its activity. Nothing can hinder it from manifesting. So receptive, so plastic, so quick to take an impression is the mentality which surrounds us, that it receives the impress of our slightest thought. Now, for the sake of clearness, I want you to think of yourself as in this mind. Don't think of this mind as being in you. Rather, think of yourself as the center of this mind. Of course, this mind flows through you. Think of yourself as a center in it. That is your principle. You think, and this mind produces it. Now, there is one of the big points in metaphysics, and it is one of the reasons why so few people succeed. They do not understand the impersonal nature of mind. They think, I've got something tremendous to do. I have to hold the thought. Thinking the thought is what does something. Thought sows the seed in mind, and without this mind, nothing could be made. You could not be sick without it. It is not your mind, so no human thought has anything to do with it. It is mind, infinite and changeless, eternal, and all the mind there is. It will give us an entirely different concept of the metaphysical principle if, instead of thinking my mind does so and so, we think mine does it. Of course, it is your mind. Also, it is your principle. That person gets the best result who realizes the impersonality of mind, the absoluteness of it, and then who can project into it the clearest concept. The reason being that all is law of cause and effect. We think a thought into mind, and mind returns it to us manifested as we thought it. First, the impulse to think, then the thought. Then the thought is imaged as infinite mind, and infinite mind creates and causes it to become an effect. That is always the way it works. Just see how we may relieve ourselves. The responsibility rests in mind to do the creating, not in you and not in me. We are not responsible for the slightest thing in this regard. What I mean is this: neither by your taking thought or by my taking thought, humanly thinking, could we do the slightest thing. But there is the principle that flows in and flows through us and everybody that does the thing. That means that in your work you can be absolutely impersonal. If I were treating myself, as I do sometimes, I would not say I am so and so. I call my name and treat myself as somebody I never heard of, because mine is impersonal and mine takes up this thought about Ernest Holmes and does it for me. Don't you see how, if you can get that concept, it is going to relieve you of all burden that the ordinary individual feels? Suppose you sit down to give a treatment today at 8 o'clock, and at 9 o'clock you give another. It is the same treatment that is given each time. You see, you speak forth and mind takes up what you say and does it unto you. That is why Jesus said, "It shall be done unto you." And if you could relieve your own human consciousness of responsibility, you would be a good healer. It is hard to speak forth and let it go away from you. I will send forth my word, and it shall not return to me void. We have got to learn to trust this unseen power. Until we do, we will get no results. In this mind, there is health and flow the consciousness of the human race. Never forget that. It is one of the things that few people understand, that we are surrounded by a universal consciousness which is creative. And do you remember what I said? It is receptive and neutral. It holds within itself all the thoughts of everybody, every thought that has been thought always by the human race, and it holds it and executes it. There has been a thought gone forth into the human race that we are lost. It is perhaps one of the strongest thoughts that has ever been created, that we have fallen. That has become a very great mental suggestion operating on and what we might term the universal cosmic plane, operating with terrific power through the consciousness of everybody who believes it. We are not talking about God. We are talking about our creative mind. It is a law, that is all. The very fact that it is not limited intelligence is shown in that it will receive both positive and negative impressions. Never get away from the idea that you are surrounded by such a power. It is the principle of demonstration. It knows everything. As we send forth our thought into it, it does it unto us. But that person who does not know how to deal with the metaphysical principle is bound by the law of human ignorance, absolutely bound hand and foot by conditions. But now, what does a metaphysician do? We begin, one by one, to break the chains of human consciousness which bind us. It is absolutely necessary. There is, operative through the consciousness of the individual, that law which says the person is sick, and it is subject to being sick. We have got to absolutely break it and emancipate ourselves from it. How are you going to do it? We are going to do it by the same means that brought about the condition, by thinking, because everything is produced by thought. You are going to do it by thinking into universal mind, the truth about yourself. The highest truth is that we are power, spirit, substance. We are made in the image of God. We are perfect. Now then, your treatment has just exactly as much and no more power than you put into it. Can you understand that, since this is the mental principle of everything that is, it has got to accept our word? Do you get the fact that you are a mental being living in a mental universe? It is all right, it is real, but it is an effect. It is not a cause. Here is one thing that you must think. It is one of the most important things. Since all is mind, and the only avenue of expression of this mind is through mental concept, and we are the ones that hold the mental concept about ourselves, and mind is the one which does it unto us. That mental concept, held in universal mind, is positive or negative, as it is when we create it or think it. In other words, if I know that my word is, my word knows that it is. I say a treatment has no more power than it is put in by the one treating. And that is why some people's work is so much more powerful than others. In some things I get much better results than I do in other things. There are certain things I can do for myself and never fail. Why? Because I know when I speak the word, that word knows itself. How? Why do I know? Because somehow or other, there is evolved within me that consciousness. That is a matter of growth. Notwithstanding, no treatment will have any more power than I put into it. And here is an important thing, and it is a thing all the best metaphysicians understand, and the vast majority who are seeking do not. When you give your treatment, you must know within your own consciousness that this treatment is the activity of absolute intelligence, absolute power, and that it knows within itself. That is why mind knows this treatment is eternal. It cannot be upset. It cannot be waylaid. It cannot be operated against. Ordinary people's treatment does not go forth with power because their treatment is not protected in their mind. I'm getting into deep waters, but I want you to follow me closely. Their treatment is not protected in their consciousness. We are dealing with a power where a positive and a negative power balance each other. Until our word becomes so absolutely spiritual, it is very apt to be neutralized by an opposing power, insofar as the effect on us is concerned. Since that is true, suppose you are demonstrating prosperity. You must do more than declare you are prosperous. You must know that no human law, no human thought, which is always seeking manifestation, can operate against your treatment. It knows itself to be the fulfillment of everything concerning you, and you will then surround yourself with a wall and protection of positive thought that nothing can operate against. Otherwise, your word, unless it goes forth with power, speaking in a human way, will be tangled up in the false words. It must know itself. You must realize that. Then you know it. You must know that your word is more than anything else. Otherwise, your word will not amount to anything. The highest thought and the highest word are good through the omnipresence of God. You are still dealing with the same law of cause and effect. And what the world needs today is to know and understand that law. And let each one apply to the limit of that law as much as the spirit can be apprehended, and then the world will begin to get results. What you must begin at once to do is to protect yourself from man-made law concerning you. For instance, man has said that man is sick. Now, you must know, you must recognize that man has said it. You must recognize that the error is a thing which you have absolute power. And you must know that when you speak the word, that your word has absolute power to destroy it. Thought is intelligence. You must know that what you are saying is destroying error. I do not want you to think you are antagonizing it or fighting. But in that calm assurance which comes to the individual who knows, you are destroying it. I should quite definitely speak the word that I knew would annul every law that seemed to me was the human cause of this thing. The time will come when we deal more and more with the absolute, but we have to approach that by degrees. If I have a case now that does not yield readily, I go over everything that we say causes that conditioning, and I speak the word that destroys it. You will find your word has the amount of power, the amount of intelligence you put into it, and it has creative power according to the amount of absolute conviction and the impulse of love which is behind it. It has creative power according to that. Mine is that which is eternally self-conscious of itself, of its ability to do anything that it wants to, and whose one impulse is the impulse of love. That soul which can love the greatest will be the best healer. The one who can love the most universally, the one who can take into consciousness the broadest concept. All thought is impersonal, and we live in this mind which immediately takes up whatever thought we think. Suppose you have your business and you want to treat your business. You declare for the divine activity. Know, first of all, you must realize this, since it is the principle of everything. All is mind. That must be very real in your consciousness. If you think something depends on the condition, you are bound by that. First, you must know that all is mind. Then you must know that the activity of mind is thought. Next, you must know that you are a thinker and that mind takes up your thought and creates it. You must know that you are never dealing with a condition. Never look at this condition. If it is the healing of disease, never ask to see it. Never ask your patient how he or she is feeling, etc. And when your patient sits down for a treatment, if it is a disease, the first thing to do in your consciousness is to clear up all false thought they have been giving you. It is the same thing in your business. You must clear up all of the false consciousness which says you are limited to thus and so. And when you get a clear concept that all is mind governed through thought, that you are a thinker and you are a center of mind, that thought makes your word more impersonal. Always, the more you can get away from personality, the better. That does not mean you should not care for people. We are living in mind, and there is nothing but mind and its manifestation. Right then and there, you begin to declare and make your declaration the eternal truth of mind. Then think impersonally. You must feel you are stating the truth about the universal. That gives you a bigger concept and a bigger receptivity for a bigger power. The only reason I know for doing this is that it will give you better results by doing it. You must feel like this: I'm going to have a kind of a formula, not a formula, but a kind of a form around which you could weave your own words for what I consider a very good way to give a treatment. Suppose we are taking a case of a disease. First of all, we must recognize the absolute supremacy of mind and spirit. Then, we must know there is no such thing as people call corruptible, carnal. There is no such thing as a physical person. I explain that in case some of you think there is no material person. If by physical you mean something that is unspiritual, there is no such thing. There is nothing but mind or spirit, out of which a human can be made of. We have been handling ourselves as if we are detached from mind and spirit, as we were something entirely separate. There is no more intelligence in your finger than your mind puts in it. There is no physical human to operate in, upon, or through. Otherwise, you will always find yourself fighting a condition. You must realize there is but one mind, and everything is the activity of that mind, and what you are doing is declaring the truth into that mind, and that mind is going to execute the truth. Simply suppose I am A here, and B is in New York City, or any distant city. A wants to give B a treatment. Some might tell B to sit down at a certain hour and get perfectly passive. That has nothing more to do with the metaphysical principle than my trying to hypnotize that chair. Here is mind, infinite, self-conscious. You are not trying to send a thought into the consciousness of your patient. That is a very, very dangerous thing to do. Here is mind, and we must know into it something for that patient. That is all you could do anyway. The patient has asked for a treatment. Of course, the treatment has got to become effective in the patient's consciousness before it will heal. Here is the infinite principle that there is one mind, and we begin to know the truth about the patient and speak that truth into mind. My responsibility begins when I begin to know the truth in myself, whether the patient ever gets it. You must know that it can heal. You must know that no thought of the patient, no suggestion against it can operate against it. When you have known that, that is all there is to it. I'm going to treat B in New York City. That is all I have got to think about B, and begin to state the truth. There is a power that is infinitely greater than we are. We will begin to get results. You are relieved of all responsibility. The sooner you get that, the quicker you will be able to work. If you could work in just as impersonal a way as for yourself, you could obtain better results. You have a business. Call your name into mind and begin to give your name a treatment, destroying in consciousness all false thought. If you get the right mentality, the business will be right. In order to help yourself the most effectively, you will have to learn to do it impersonally. There is nothing in my metaphysical work I make personal. I set the whole thing out into mind. Suppose I get a letter from a person in San Francisco asking for treatment. I begin immediately to declare the truth. And if a thought comes to me that this declaration of truth is not sufficient, I begin again. How many people have tried to give a treatment and felt that it was not sufficient? That is impersonal evil trying to make itself felt. As soon as that thought comes to you, turn and destroy it, erase it, get rid of it. Get it out of your consciousness and declare that this word is effective and it can produce, that it can, that it does, it is. Realize that your word does it. If you do not learn to control your thought, thought will control you. What you have to do is with thought and not with people. If you're treating your own business, learn to get it right out in mind. If I want to give myself a treatment, say for a headache, I will give myself a treatment just the same as I would if you were manifesting that thought and you asked for a treatment. If I wanted to give myself a treatment for prosperity, I would take the same thing. I will begin to realize the truth about myself into mine, just the same as if I were treating somebody else. And now, the people who, within their consciousness, can get the clearest concept and expect most vividly the thing that they are after, will get it the quickest. But most of us are constantly declaring error. We are declaring I am sick, or weak, or unhappy, or Ernest Holmes has gone to hell. And here is mine, that which eternally receives. There are more people suffering from the race consciousness of condemnation. I have destroyed in my consciousness any belief in any punishment in hell. Then it was gone. Then there was nothing there to make me sick. And when you destroy the obstruction that people sets up, the healing is done. Health is. You do not have to make it. It is. If you are sick, there is a negative thought there operating upon your body through your consciousness. I must not say I am not poor, because it sounds nice to say it, but there must be that within me spiritually that knows I am not. There must be a deep conviction within that knows that all the truth of that which I say. Perhaps 1,000,000 times I will have to do that over and over until I get over that false habit of thought. Whatever it is that hinders your progress is nothing but thought force working. And when you learn how to destroy it and get rid of it and know the truth, it will depart. Stop looking at the world as a conditioned thing governed by matter, matter, matter. Let matter alone. It is all right in itself. We are getting ready to do some big things before the winter is over. I have seen such wonderful results, such marvelous results. I am surprised over them myself. In spite of the results, I am surprised, and I can see such infinite possibilities just beyond. I want that every one of us shall prove this winter the absolute supremacy of our word. The thing to do now is to get your consciousness clear. I get so enthusiastic over this, and I can see wonderful possibilities. When I see the people every day coming to me enjoying health, prosperity, and happiness. And when I know the infinite is just waiting to be acted upon. You are the actors. It is the binding thought of our own false consciousness that holds us. It seems as though I could not wait, and yet there is no use in talking to people who do not listen. A few do. And there is a possibility in this infinite storehouse of mind that God has made already for people to use, and people ought to use it. We have got to learn the laws governing cause and effect. Law. You have got to learn how to use it, and you have got to know how to use it. And then you have got to use it. I find those who get the best results are those who know what they are doing, constantly weeding out of their consciousness everything that hinders, destroying within them their false concept. A little here, a little there, and if they fall down, in not staying down but getting up and going on, over and over again. There is no practitioner who can do anything more for you than to help you. Your final emancipation will be written by your own hand, or it will never be written at all. It will be thought out by your own mind. It will govern your own consciousness as it recognizes the supremacy of mind, the infinite impulse of spirit, and your own divine birthright to use it. I have made a careful study since I have been investigating metaphysics. I have investigated it and proved it. I do not think we have a right to talk about anything we do not know about. I know that under the right systematic training of thought, individuals can make themselves happy, prosperous, and well. And from that, I believe there will be a state of consciousness that would do it at once. I have not arrived at that state of consciousness, and we have got to begin where we are. So that is what we must learn. Because we cannot speak some magic word and make something appear, because we cannot walk on water and pass through a wall, it cannot be said that it cannot be done. This winter, I would like to see 150 of us begin to systematically clear out our own consciousness, everything that hinders it. Now, we can do that if you will work absolutely together as one, and take a certain line of consciousness each week and go after it scientifically, and come here and discuss it and find out what hinders it. I bet each person will look back and think it is an entirely different world. It takes time for us to grow the right kind of a consciousness. First, I had all of my own thought to overcome, my own observing of false condition. Then I also had to heal myself of what other people said about me. You start to do a new thing, and people will say it can't be done. They are making a law for you. Malpractice, it is called in Christian Science. You cannot in one bound, you cannot in one jump expect to find yourself renewed in body, soul, and mind, and spirited into a new condition. But you do find, as I have, that a little here, little there is evident in your experience. Compare the consciousness today with what it was 4 or 6 months ago. As I compare the results, I find it is a new result I'm getting. I find I'm operating at a much higher law, and I find that my consciousness is even externalizing everything in the world. 4 or 6 months ago, it was a limited concept. It was a limited manifestation. There is a law of growth. We must learn to trust that law of growth. We must believe in it. If we will wait and know that divine law and order will bring that thing upon us. As sort of a preparation for our consciousness, those who intend to make this more or less a permanent thing, let us begin this way. Follow one line of thought if you want to demonstrate. Your thought has not been clear on one thing long enough to produce. Let us get our thought clear and picture it clear enough. As far as you are concerned, there is only causation, that is, mind. This is your infinite principle of life. It is good. It wants to be. It can be all that you need. All that you will ever have comes from it, and all you ever have had came from it. And it comes flowing through your consciousness, externalizing itself through the avenues of your thinking. You must learn to control your thoughts. We must learn to control our thought, and it is all we need to do. To learn how to do this thing, we destroy false thought. We create the true, and then know the true until the thing happens. It is not only a privilege and a pleasure and a benefit to the individual because it gives them all that there is for all there is not, but I believe it is a solemn duty and obligation imposed upon every individual who believes this thing is true to prove it. I say it is a solemn obligation to you and to me to prove this principle in our lives and so get such absolute direct results that the world will sit up and know that the mental and spiritual principle is supreme. It is the only thing that will save the world from itself. The reason that Jesus never started a religion or a center or wrote a book or started a church or formed a government, all of which he could have done infinitely better than anybody that ever lived, is because he was the wisest man who ever lived. He never did these things because he left the complete unfoldment of understanding to take place after his exit from this world. He said, "The Spirit of truth, when it comes to you, you will receive all things." Can you not see? It is when first this spirit is awakened within the individual that there is any inspiration, any power. What we must learn to do is to scientifically dispose of everything that hinders this spirit from working. I know tonight that I have something with me which I cannot understand very much of, perhaps more than most people, perhaps less. But this I know, that I govern my life as I choose. I do that absolutely, and I do it through a law I have never seen. I know it works, for it never fails me. I know I have so much of that ability as I believe in, and I can see that Jesus, with his infinite understanding, could say, "Whatsoever ye believe, it will be done unto you." He understood the law of cause and effect. Right off, you know enough. Begin to use it tonight, and right off begin to believe the word which you speak. That word which you speak is going to go forth and do the thing. Know that it has the power, the intelligence, and know it is accomplished when you speak it. So it shall be to each one of us looking to the truth, believing in the absolute reality of the spiritual power of thought over everything else. For that reason, and for that reason alone, let us gather together with the determination to do it. It will convince 1,500 people. And so in this way, it is the only way the world will ever be saved. We may seem to be doing a small thing, but we are doing a thing which reaches throughout the universe. We are unified with that movement which will ultimately save the world.